Hey, what's up everybody? Time for another game theory video. If you like the videos, like, subscribe, silly comment, share, support the channel if you can. I appreciate it. Thanks. It does help when you like the video. Only takes you a second. Subscribe, comment, whatever. Today, of course, I'm going to talk some poo-poo about CVS2, but I wanted to talk about something I don't think I've talked about on the channel before. Although I've probably talked about it on forums back in the day, but not on the channel specifically that I can recall. But what are some things that actually got fixed in CVS2, which is pretty shocking because you think CVS2 mostly made things worse and is a game full of brain farts. Well, there were a few things that I can think of that were fixed in CVS2 compared to CVS1. If we think about a character like Ryu, so since CVS1 is a game that was only played for about a year, this might be interesting to people that maybe they don't know this, right? So two things stick out to me in the original CVS1 that was a problem. And one of those would be that, did you know that Ryu's red fireball only knocked down on like the very first frame of it? Do you remember that? Or maybe you didn't even play the game to remember that, but let's look at that. Did you see how close I was and that didn't give me the knockdown red fireball? Look at that. Basically in CVS1, only the very first frame of Ryu's red fireball actually knocked down. Which meant a lot of confirms just didn't work. And even like, look at that. Can you imagine if the character was small, good luck comboing into a red fireball. A lot of that stuff just didn't work. Now, of course, you could do tap, 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 a few lights or whatever. But in general, right, besides, you could do a couple tap taps if you wanted to red fireball, I guess you could say. But when you're thinking about just doing a fierce to a red fireball, very not forgiving in CVS1. Very strange. Whereas, of course, if we go to CVS2, okay, that is reasonable. What we would think it would do, right? Of course, CVS2 isn't perfect because then you got to remember CVS2, because fireballs are slower, you actually have instances in CVS2 where, now why didn't that count though? A fireball just didn't combo from a fierce at that range because again, CVS2 is a game that was not very well thought out, but they sort of fixed it. I can only theorize that maybe they did this in CVS2. Or CVS1, I should say, rather, because Ryu's, Shoryuken juggled like it did. Maybe during testing of the game originally, maybe there was some combo to red fireball stuff that actually let you juggle into a super dragon punch. I don't know, but it is certainly seemingly pretty obscure. Another strange thing that you might not know about CVS1 is, especially when you hear about people talk about the game, because they might tell you that the game is archaic, which I suppose it is in a way. But when you think about that, you might stereotype that as meaning that dragon punches are super invincible in CVS1. And that is actually not the case. As a matter of fact, in CVS1, dragon punches can outright lose to things that would probably seem pretty obscure at times. Did you see that? Well, let's go back. This is a jab dragon punch, right? Look at that, boom. I just got beat. Well, what if we do the fierce? Boom. CVS1 dragon punches are actually not super invincible completely. If moves have big hurt boxes and good priority, I'll say good priority, it's not unheard of for dragon punches to actually lose in the game, where you would think that they should reasonably win. It's much more so apparent with characters like Iori and Kyo than a character like Ryu and Ken. But I would say the devil's advocate for that would be that, remember, in CVS1, Iori has the 8 wine glass super that is very good, and he has the Maiden Masher that is very invincible. And I think that is a characteristic of Iori that is pretty interesting in CVS1 that gives him a good gimmick that separates him from the cast. So making Iori a meter-hungry character that has a lesser DP that can lose sometimes in situations that you might be a little bit surprised, I don't think is a totally terrible thing in CVS1 for a character like that, but certainly for a Shoto, a Dragon Punch actually can lose kind of in some bizarre situations in CVS1. Now, in CVS2, of course, they fixed this to a more, generally in CVS2, the thought is jab Dragon Punches for attacks that are lower and hard Dragon Punch for attacks that are higher, which is okay. That was a jab, so I lost. If I try to do a little bit deeper, I traded. But in CVS2, you know what you do stick for? You do fierce, right? And I think that's pretty reasonable in CVS2. I think that is a fix in CVS2. Now, of course, again, we can't have all fun in CVS2 because it's a clusterfuck of a game. Something they changed in CVS2 is they made stuff like multi-hit Dragon Punches always hitting multiple hits, which I just fucking hate. Ken already has the longer horizontal Dragon Punch, right? I think Ken should stay the longer horizontal Dragon Punch, right? That can tag you from farther away. And if you're on the ground, it does more damage because it hits you. I hate the change of making the Dragon Punch hit you 3 times in the air for Ken because it makes Ryu less special because of that. But I digress. Now, of course, let's get back into the more nitty gritty of talking shit about CVS2, right? And I always go back to a couple of things when I think of CVS1 to CVS2. And one of the great examples is Ryu's Hopkick. Now, Ryu's Hopkick in CVS1 was changed that it actually jumps higher in the air, right? So because it jumps higher in the air, this means that it can miss some moves in some characters when they're ducking, right? Okay, right? Okay, I guess, right? But to compensate for this, right? And this is the same thing in CVS2, right? I mean, the move misses like what, half the cast, right? Even though it's a hop kick and it's supposed to be going over attacks. But to compensate for this in CVS1, they actually gave it the properties of an attack that are going higher in the air, right? So that means that Ryu could, let's say Sagat threw a fireball on Ryu and Wake Up, I can hop kick through the fireball, which is relevant because in a game like CVS1, something they changed is if I try to do look at that sim right there, a Hurricane Kick doesn't go over fireballs at the startup like you might assume it does, right? So we have a little bit of a choice here, right? Now, you can also see even because it goes higher, it can even go through a fireball, right? Kind of cool, right? Also, because it goes higher to compensate for the fact that it might miss some opponents, right? It now does more stun, right? So look at the block stun here. Boom. Do you see I've already recovered while the other guy's in stun? I'm getting my Dragon Punch out. He's still in stun, right? I don't know exactly the frame data in CVS1, and I'm not a frame data master, but I would assume it's around a few frames, maybe 4 frames or something like that. You'll see me start to jump. I think in this clip, look at this boom. I'm still at the advantage. You can even, on block, look at that boom. You can get block strings with it, right? Look at this here, boom. See, now he does Dragon Punch, right? 1 frame slow right there, but look at this. Boom, still going. I reversal, because you get the white flash in CVS1, your reversal. So I assume you're around 4 frames or something like that, right? Now, like CVS2, they did do a little bit of a weird thing with the move where they're like, well, we don't want you to actually be able to combo after it. So the move does more block stun than it does hit stun, right? So I think you're about at even, right? When you actually hit the guy, right? But still kind of an interesting concept, right? But again, in CVS2, and this is what I've talked about before, that CVS2 is almost a game where they sort of just gave it, since they weren't going to beta test the game properly, they're like, let's make every move a little bit worse. So they saw moves like Ryu's hop kick, and the guy's like, I don't know what this move is actually doing. I'm just looking at the frame data. So I'm going to make every move a few frames worse, right? So then you have instances where, well, guess what? The move still misses you, right? But guess what? It has none of the advantages that it had in CVS1. Because guess what? He's trying to kick my legs, right? You would think I'd be able to jump over it? Nope. Nope. Think I'd be able to go through it? Nope. And Hurricane Kick still doesn't go through it. Oh, geez. Well, fuck me. I mean, it does say reversal. Right? Also, guess what? Because every move seemingly in the game has a few frames less of stun or frame data because they're afraid that something might be too good in the game. Oh, hey, I went over low and you punished me for it. Wow. The great game design of CVS2. Again, that's why I say I don't think CVS2. I think that the person that they had like polishing up CVS2, I don't think they actually really played the game. It's almost like they kind of just went in like haphazardly. They're arbitrarily told to make every character, every move about 30% worse or something without actually knowing the stuff that they were fiddling with. It's very strange, right? And of course, another example is I always say the supers are, people will complain about supers in CVS1, but supers are so much better thought out in CVS1 than CVS2, right? In CVS1, like, okay, we have a Ryu Super Fireball, right? Level 3. Not a lot of damage, level 3, right? But of course, we know Super Fireball is very confirmable, right? It's your little kind of go-to combo, right? Especially if we think about a game where your red Fireball doesn't even combo properly half the time in the game, right? Or at least knock down, right? We have a move like the Super Hurricane Kick. Yeah, it does a little bit more damage than a, Super Fireball, right? And of course, we have stuff, well, it could be block damage. Remember in CVS2, because everything has a few worse frames of stun, now you can actually be punished after doing a Super Hurricane Kick in CVS2, but I don't think it's perfect in CVS1 either. But I digress, it's even worse in CVS2. But again, you got a little bit of block damage super, and you got something for random conversions like that. That's kind of fun, right? And then you got the big Shin Shoryuken. Boom. Your huge Big Daddy super, right? Right? Which, of course, you can juggle in the game. Now, believe it or not, I actually don't think this is broken. As a level 1 character, again, does a little bit less than would versus a character like a level 2, but I don't think that's broken. Especially when you think about to get a level 3 in a game, right? I mean, that means we can't have used any supers whatsoever. We had to have saved it up, right? We have to now have the opportunity to then do the level 3, right? If you even think about the way that invincibility works in CVS1, it's so much better. Look at this. I'm doing a level 3 Super Fireball, but guess what? Do you see where that Fireball is? I think that means I timed this Super Fireball pretty badly, right? So of course, guess what? I got hit. That's on me. I timed it badly, right? Now, if I were to do a level 1 Super Hurricane Kick from the same way, well, guess what? The Super Hurricane Kick is a move that is, I think you could fathom as a move that should be a little bit more invincible. So it goes through even at level 1. But what is a game like CVS2? And I can't believe that supposed CVS2 experts did not know this, which is crazy, right? CVS2, what they did is, again, they kind of just arbitrarily, because they're like, well, we're not going to really test this game. They just homogenize the supers with every fucking character, basically, where everyone's level 1 does this amount of super invincibility. Everyone's level 2 does this amount of super invincibility. Everyone's level 3 does this amount of super invincibility. And it's just like almost completely, what is it, like 95% homogenized across the board. Level 1 do this much, level 2 does this much, level 3 does this much, right? So guess what? I do a Super Hurricane Kick, guess what? Oh, well, I don't go through it because super invincibility is homogenized in the game. But if I do a level 3, well, remember, super invincibility is homogenized in the game. So guess what? Oh, I can time my Super Fireball badly and still go through a move. What? Again, I know people say that this is broken. I don't think this is broken. Oh, shit. He didn't jump over a fireball correctly. Guess what? Boom. Dash in. I think that feels good to do that kind of stuff in CVS1. I like just looking at it. It's amazing. And of course, even that stuff, for that to work, remember, you got to micro walk to the Super Dragon Punch. You can't just do it. You got to micro walk and then do it, right? Now, I will agree that perhaps the idea that Ryu can hit confirm into a sweep into the Shinchoryu is kind of silly, but to be honest, to fix that, I mean, just make it so the sweep you can't juggle after it. Put some kind of property in it. I mean, I wouldn't be against that. And remember, the Super Dragon Punch, it's not like the move has a tremendous hitbox like it does, say, in a game like, I don't know, let's say Street Fighter 4, since we did videos on that recently, right? Where it hits from very far away. Street Fighter CVS1, it can miss where you might think that, oh, this should probably get the real version. Guess what? Nope. It's a little bit more specific than you might think, right? oh, that worked. But again, the move is, CVS1 is a game that gets a lot of hate. And people say the Super Dragon Punch is broken. But the funny thing is about CVS1, and I've said this many times before, is so many things you can hear people say are broken about CVS1. And you know what? One what's something amazing about CVS1 compared to CVS2? When we think about CVS1 and the things that people are complaining about, right? They're generally things that are specific to a character, let's say, right? Ryu, oh, the Shinshoryuken, it's too bad. Or, oh, Guile is too good. Or, oh, Nakaruru is too good. Oh, Iori 8 Wine Glass Trap is too good, right? Or, oh, but not exactly a character-specific thing, but you say, oh, level 1 characters are too good. You can pick too many. You know what? In CVS1, you hear a lot of people say that a lot of things are broken. Oh, Belrog and S-Groove is too good, right? Oh. But you know what the main complaint about CVS2 is for something that is broken? And this isn't that, obviously people complain about M. Bison, Blanca, Sagat, Sakura, that is a specific thing. But you know what the main thing that is the main narrative of CVS2? It's role canceling. When the main narrative of your game is something that is homogenized, I think that's a pretty dangerous road to tread. I've said this many times before that I think, and I even did that experiment recently, and shockingly, people agreed. A lot of times you play a game for the character. Oh, this is my favorite version of this character. This is my favorite version of this character. This is my favorite version of this character. I don't think CVS1 is some amazingly great game, but I've said many times before, what actually is there in CVS1, the stuff that is there actually works better than it does in CVS2. Yes, CVS2 has more stuff, and I think there's an argument for more is better sometimes. But CVS2 has a lot of stuff that just doesn't work properly. A lot of brain fart stuff that is really bad. Even without role canceling, the game is not that amazing. I hate to break it to you. Moves work better in CVS1. I don't think that's broken. And the funny thing is, people will say that's broken, but guess what? Do you hear people say that Ryu is the best character in CVS1? They don't. That's the balance and the chaos of a lot of these games, right? These older games that people will complain about, right? Again, I don't think that CVS1 is some amazing great game, just like I don't think this Street Fighter Alpha 1 is some amazing great game. But if you actually know anything about video games, and you're able to look at something objectively, I think you would be very surprised that many of these older games are not as badly made as a lot of people in the community would like you to believe. And if you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you can. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.